Are you tired of the mainstream media lying to you every single day? You are not alone. Millions of other Americans are sick of the corporate media fake news of the MSNBC, CNN, ABC, NBC, New York Times, other Times, Washington Post, Political. Every single one of them are in the bag for the Democrats. They are all Team DNC. But now you have another option in independent creators like here on the CASHLOREN show. Well, we will go and we will expose the deep state, these unelected bureaucrats, and the mainstream media, along with the Democrats and their friends in the Rhino Uniparty, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Get the facts on the CASHLOREN show. I am your host, America's Truth Teller, shining a bright red light on the corruption and the hoaxes from the mainstream media and the Democrat Party. You're not going to want to miss a single moment. Join the American First Movement Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. This is the CASHLOREN show.
In 2025, we find ourselves in a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. For more than 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage on all three of the major networks, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service, it's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
Well, the Democrats are over in Texas trying to pull another big, just insane stunt to stop the will of the American voters again. As the Democrats see, they see themselves as your betters, and they see themselves as the elite. So therefore, anything that they do is justified, no matter how illegal, to stop the American people. See, when they go opposed to Donald Trump, who they're really opposing is you, the American people, and your will is you have voted for Donald Trump to be your president of the United States of America. And on the last thing on the Democrats, their last leg, their last hope was taking back the House in the DC from the Republicans so they can obstruct the will of the American people for the final 2 years of Donald Trump's administration. And then hopefully take back the president of that time, and then take back their uniparty with all the other Democrats and the traitor rhinos and go right back to the way business was before. And greetings, independent thinkers. It's great to be back with you on this Monday. I hope you had a great weekend. As we go back, we cover everything that's happened today and over this weekend in politics. This really rough and tough fighting, especially what happened today, is now it looks like very much that Democrats may be arrested for what they have done. You take a moment and like and repost and help us share a conservative message. I'm your host, CASHLOREN, making the liberals cry tears that are saltier than you know whose fries. We start off today down in Texas, where they are going to start to redistrict Texas before the 2026 midterms. That could lead all the way to 5 more Republican seats before the midterms. This is the one thing that the Democrats are desperate to stop. Right from the get-go, when you go all the way back to when Joe Biden was president, and then the Democrats, they thought they were never going to lose power again, as they thought that they had stopped Donald Trump dead in his tracks. As they threw one impeachment hoax after him, a second impeachment hoax after him, after they threw the January 6th and the boxes hoaxes, and then they threw the Gene Carroll and the 34 felonies, 9 bullets. They became more and more desperate as time went on to try to convince you, the American people, that you better not even do it. Don't you even try to vote for Donald Trump. If you do that, he's a threat to our democracy. But really what they mean is he's a threat to their bureaucracy. And when then you plebs, when you do not vote the way the Democrats had told you to vote, that absolutely enraged them, because in their minds, they can't be wrong. I mean, they are the liberal elite. They are your betters. And anything that you do, see, that is your fault. I mean, they told you what would happen, didn't they? They told you how the economy would collapse if you voted for Donald Trump. They told you how he was a convicted felon. So how could you vote for a convicted felon? Yet hoax after hoax after hoax failed. And as each hoax failed, the mainstream media and the Democrats, they continue to lose all their influence over you, the American people, one step at a time. I mean, I would think even 5 years ago, it was probably Kamala Harris is probably president of the United States. That is how much influence the mainstream media has lost in just a couple short years. One of the great parts is Elon Musk purchasing X. Is when he did this, and this allowed actual free speech. Another thing that Democrats lie about wanting to keep, what happened next is all of a sudden we were able to expose in a very short amount of time how much the mainstream media was lying to you, the American voters. Because it's one thing if they lie to you. It's another thing if they withhold stories from you, the American people. But what the mainstream media was doing is far worse than any of that. What they were doing is they were telling you partial truths, and then they were marrying them to lies. See, they tell you one part, like the boxes hoaxes, but Donald Trump had so-called classified information in his Mar-a-Lago. But they leave the rest of the information out to try to get you to come to the wrong conclusion that you never would have came to if you'd known the whole information, such as he was the president and he's perfectly allowed to. And in fact, every single president, at least in modern history, has taken documents home with them. So these are the parts they couldn't let you know. And now the huge hoax that's coming up now is with the Russia hoax that turned out that they were lying about Russian collusion the entire time. In fact, according to the DNI, to Tulsi Gabbard in the CIA, that it was Barack Hussein Obama and it was Hillary Clinton that ordered and paid for this operation for the Russiagate hoaxes that plagued Donald Trump's first administration for more than 2 years. In fact, all the way to this day. And now they're being referred to criminally to the DOJ, and now they're sending it back into a grand jury. Good. And this can also happen with these Texas Democrats who they are also trying to obstruct because they think that they are 100% right no matter what they do. I mean, this is how arrogant they are. Texas is going to add 5 seats to the 2026 election in the midterms. It's very likely going to happen now. The Democrats are trying desperately to stop it, but because they've caused so many hoaxes, they can't convince you, the American people, to go with them anymore. So they yell and they scream and they call you a racist and they call you a bigot and they call you a homophobe and they call you a transphobe. They call you a white nationalist. They call all these things to try to slander you into submission. And I do not doubt for a single second that is exactly what they mean. Because they don't think that you're a racist or a bigot or homophobe. They couldn't care less about any of that stuff. When they call you those names, all they really mean is just shut up, right? Don't say a single word that we don't want you to say. It's out of the way. And that has caused them, as they've lost all of their influence over this time, to now they're becoming more and more desperate that they're even willing to blatantly break law. As also the other side, the Democrat side, is they've gotten so used to not being held responsible for their actions. We would often call this the two-tiered justice system. I mean, how many times do the Democrats just seem to not get arrested or not get prosecuted? Or they would open up investigations and nothing would ever happen to these people. Not a single time. And this is happening again here in Texas, as they thought they could get away with it. But the Republicans are finally standing up and fighting. So what the Democrats try to do in Texas to stop this vote is that the Democrats, they fled to Illinois, who is probably one of the most gerrymandered states in all of our republic. Now, when they did this, I want to make this clear. They, according to AG Paxton and according to Greg Abbott, they broke Texas law to try to stop the vote. And this is just petty of them. Right? I mean, if you're supposed to be a public servant, right, don't you fight your battles in Congress? But that's not what they're doing one bit, is they think that they have justified their right to rule, that they're fighting endlessly to stop this vote. Now, in that as they go and they fled, and they were warned by Governor Abbott. He told them that the Democrats, this is what Abbott's words, the derelict Democrat House members must return to Texas and be in attendance when their House reconvenes at 3 p.m. on Monday, August 4th, 2025. Okay, they did not return. They continued to hide in Illinois. And then he added that he added that they're leaving Texas. This may account to also being felony bribery. And the reason why is because they fled in a private jet that was paid for by out of state dollars to fly them out of there. And this is getting more and more insane here. The Texas Democrat lawmakers were given a dedicated $40 million private jet. The cost of $15,000 per hour, roughly, or more to rent. And then the funds are raised are having their own trip orchestrated by out-of-state actors. Thus, are they being bribed to obstruct law? But that is what Greg Abbott is asking right now. And that's something that Ken Paxton is looking into. This is a very good question. I mean, were they paid to obstruct Texas law? I mean, they have a private jet to fly them into Illinois, of all places, to assumably to escape justice. At some point, you wonder, the Democrats have to come back. And I suspect that the Democrats, they didn't think that Texas would go this far. I mean, they are so used to just getting away with doing anything that they want and suffering absolutely no consequences for their actions. The two-tiered justice system always seems to favor the Democrats. I'm sure the way they imagine this is that they would get on this private jet, right, and they'd fly out to Illinois. And then once they get off the jet, just like they posted, and they should have someone PR, it's like, we're going and we're here in Illinois to protest the Texas from adding the seats. They really need to hire some PR people to say this is a very terrible idea, especially going to Illinois, which is so well gerrymandered. And this break of quorum to block on redistricting. Now, Greg Abbott threatened there's two real ways that he can go after them for this. One, he can remove them from office if they did not return. And he gave them a final warning today at 3 p.m. to do so, which they ignored. The derelict Democrat House members must return to Texas, according to Greg Abbott, in attendance when the House recovers at 3 p.m. on Monday, 2025. They did not. And then he said, I will invoke Texas Attorney General opinion number KP 03282 to remove the missing Democrats from the Texas House. Of course, they didn't do. Now we're going to find out. He added the actions may account to felony bribery because of them taking out-of-state money to fly out of the state and who knows what else that they were paid for. And that he's saying that they may have solicited these funds, meaning that there's the Democrats in the Texas House that reached out asking for money to fly out to obstruct the will of the American voters. See, this is just how sheer arrogant the Democrats are. Is they've convinced themselves in their own false morality that somehow that they are right. They tell themselves that. And they think because that they are morally just by their own moral compass, that then because they are morally just, then anything they do, no matter how illegal, no matter how wrong to the rest of youth may think, then that is justified because of their own basic morality. This is what we've ran into with the left. And they're very tone deaf, aren't they? I mean, they're just so arrogant. They're just, and it's almost like a slime that comes off, and just how greasy and elitist they are. They think that, if they were in control of the House, imagine the meltdown if the Republicans did this, if they just left. I mean, every single Democrat, we call them every single name in the book, and trying to go after them both and socially, and then they would be doing the same thing. They would be calling for arrests and prosecutions. But because the Democrats do it, because they think that they've gone themselves this fake morality, that then somehow it is justified. And out of all places, they decided to go to Illinois, one of the most gerrymandered states in all of here. Certainly competing with California and New York. And then House Republican, he went on CNN and he called them out as the corporate media as they continue to ignore what the Democrats do because they are in the bag for the Democrats. And he points this out correctly. Where were you, CNN, when Illinois does things like this? And then he even holds up a map showing how badly gerrymandered Illinois is.
Does require.
Oh, that's the wrong one. Let's see. Let's go back to the right one.
Is your objection against Pritzker or Newsom doing the same thing purely that it doesn't advantage your party? That's not consistent.
Right. And CNN, of course, playing dumb right there, trying to make a false equation that is just not with the facts. And he's going to point it out here quickly here, very quick, because CNN ignores it when the Democrats do this repeatedly. And we're going to show a whole list of all the times about how much red there is in these blue states, yet how many blue seats the Democrats seem to gain from these states. And then all the illegal immigration that seems to really focus in these Democrat states. But listen to his answers. He goes back and he shows up how gerrymandered Illinois is. And then, but of course, CNN has absolutely zero interest in looking into any of that because, they're in the bag for the Democrats.
No, I've never said something like that. You're putting words in my mouth. My objection,
you're pointing the finger at them,
isn't that he's not allowed to do it. My objection is the rank hypocrisy and dishonesty of what he's saying. I'm going to hold this up. Can you see this? Do you see this? I want Pritzker. Did y'all have him on to explain Illinois 13, this pinky-sized finger that goes across the entire state that was 100% drawn for partisan political purposes? But I haven't seen anybody at CNN or pretty much any of the other major networks bringing him on, or the Democrats and his legislator that drew a map with districts that are far more gerrymandered than anything that the House, that the Texas maps that we're contemplating look like here today. So it's rank hypocrisy. That's my problem. And the dishonesty and the faux outrage. They're not mad that states are redistricting for partisan purposes. They're mad that a Republican state is doing it.
Folks, I cannot tell you just how right he is there. The CNN and the Democrats, they do this all the time. Yet they're pretending now that they couldn't care less when the Democrats do it. They just look the other way. No, well, there's nothing to see here. Let's talk about Russia. And here are some great points on this. As we have all these stats in these Democrat states. Big ones like California, 40% nationwide votes Republican. Yet in their own state, only 9 out of the 52 seats are Republican held. New Mexico, 44%, 0%. Hawaii, 30%, 0%. Oregon, 42%, only 16% of the seats are held by Republicans. Same thing in Washington, Rhode Island, Maryland, New Jersey. It goes over and over and over again. New York, 42% state, only 26% are held by Republicans. See, the Democrats do this all the time. And CNN, they know it. And the Democrats, they also know it too. And just like he said, he is 100% right here. They couldn't care less when the Democrats gerrymander. See, whether you have MSNBC, CNN, ABC, NBC, New York Times, LA Times, Washington Post, Politico, or Axios, none of them are journalists. They are all in the bag for the Democrats. They are all Team DNC. And this has gone on for many, many years, yet not one word. But the Democrats, they blow a gasket if the Republicans just do this once. And they're not even doing anything wrong. But of course, the Democrats know that if we gain 5 seats, their chances, which is already weak, of taking back the House is almost 0. And now their judicial coup is failing. This is their last gasp to try to regain power. Because all their eggs are in this one single basket. They have to take back the House. Any means necessary. They will lie. The Democrats will cheat. The Democrats will do or say anything to get back the House. And we show the clips every single day of them blatantly and openly lying to the American people about what's happening either in the economy or in with illegal immigration or on our border. But the reality is the reason why the Democrats, they hate Trump so much, it's because they have nothing that they can run on except hating Donald Trump. That is the only thing. They can't run on one single issue that the American people actually vote on. Not a one. They know it. Fake news, the corporate media knows it. And so does the deep state. So they have to try to get you mad. And they have to try to get you angry and enraged for those reasons. And then also pointing on to the House, we have here in this map is these are where they think most illegal immigration is. Now, what do you notice about this map, right? It's almost all New York, California, Florida, Texas, and then the Michigan area, right? All the very big areas where have a lot of House seats. What many people do not know about our census is that in our census, it is done just by a head count, of course, blocked by the Democrats. So when they say that, illegal aliens can't vote in our elections, that's not exactly true. Because when they run the census to get these House seats, and they're only counting heads, they're not counting ID, they're not proving that you're an American citizen. I mean, isn't that the very definition of foreign interference in our elections? We see reports that California would lose 5 seats alone if the illegal aliens were deported. Yeah, Democrats overall are estimated that they were losing 20 to 25 House seats just off illegal aliens not being counted in our elections. Well, now everything makes a lot more sense, doesn't it? If this is true, why they're fighting so hard for the dreamers, why they look the other way for all the criminal illegal aliens and all things that they do to the American citizens here in our country. Why the Democrats cry no tears for people like Lake and Riley. And it's for these reasons. All right, do not doubt me a single second. There is no virtue in the Democrat Party for these illegal alien criminals. This is all about votes and counting heads. 100%. And why can't we say that? The Democrats talk about it all the time. They talk about gerrymandering like it's somehow bad. Well, okay, but when they do it, like we show in these maps, then all of a sudden, that's for fair elections. Well, which way is it? Okay, if they can do it to make the elections, quote unquote, fair, but as we show, roughly every single one of those states, about 40% Republican, and yet the Republicans are lucky to have 20% of the House seats. Is that really fair? And same thing with Texas and Florida and all these other states. That they thought, like Texas and Florida, especially when you see these giant election of illegal aliens being poured into those states, is because they thought that Texas was going to turn purple, and then blue, just like Florida was. The Democrats were absolutely counting on that. So we must deport them all. And with that, I am way over a break. When we come back, we have a lot more, including Jasmine Crockett breaking down and Hakeem Jeffries, as the Democrats continue to show just how out of touch with American voters they really are, as they accidentally give away their game. You won't want to miss that and anything else. We'll be right back after this greedy profit break. This is the Cash Loren Show.
Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2025, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. For more than 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans, it's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
Folks, have you wanted to start a podcast but you just don't know where to begin? Podbeam is your all-in-one solution to host your podcast and distribute it all across the internet. With my code on the affiliate link down below, you will gain also 1 month free to try the Podbeam service. This is really your one-stop solution to hosting your podcast. Record it, you put it up to just a single upload, then that upload will distribute to all of the main platforms all across the internet, including Apple and Spotify and many, many others. It will then also automatically share your podcast across all major social media, making your job easier so you can spend more time recording the podcasts that you love and less time managing them on the back end. Podbeam is your all-in-one solution for your podcast needs. Click on the link below, the CASHLOREN, and get your 1 free month today. The corporate media has lied to the American voters for such a long time that they have lost all their influence as a result. And this has also led to the rise of the independent creators, just like here on the CASHLOREN show, where we take our spare bedroom and convert it into a studio. If you're enjoying this content, it will always be free, but you can continue to help support monetarily if you choose to do so. Click on the locals link. It is only $5 a month. This is just a cup of coffee. Not only will you be supporting an independent creator, but you'll be getting lots of free perks in addition to that as well, including exclusive articles and Sunday shows, and thanking you at the end of videos with your name recognition. Take a moment and consider it and help support independent creators as we fight fake news. Go to locals right now, hit the support button for just a cup of coffee a month. It'll be worth every single penny, and you're getting lots of extra benefits too. Well, the Democrats are in a lot of trouble as they've really backed themselves in their corner. They've been on the wrong side of every single issue that the American voters care about. They're on the wrong side of big issues, the 80-20 ones, like the economy, like deporting illegal aliens, like going and building our wall, every single one. And they've got themselves so desperate now that they have to try to have votes in a way that benefits them, that is sure a little suspicious. And as we go through it, we have now Hakeem Jeffries and Jasmine Crockett accidentally giving away the Democrats' game. When they get this desperate and this upset, they accidentally tell you who they really are. It's greeting, folks. Welcome back to the CASHLOREN show. It's great to be with you again. As we defeat the left using only half my brain just to make it fair. And we start out here with Jasmine Crockett as she accidentally tells you the Democrats' plan for voting here in our elections.
As a benefit to shining a light on what it was that they were trying to do in the dark in Texas. So unfortunately, we've seen our numbers fall now that they have these voter restrictions in place. But I do think it's important for us to have the conversation around the.
We have seen our numbers fall now that these have these voter restrictions in place. Well, what is she talking about? What voter restrictions? See, this is how the Democrats lie, and the mainstream media is more than happy to help them lie, because what she's talking about is voter ID. And all of a sudden, when you have to prove that you're a U.S. citizen to vote in our elections, magically the Democrats have less votes. And I thought all this time, wasn't it a threat to our democracy to question elections? Then the Democrats scream that over and over and over again. I mean, how when Donald Trump questioned his elections, all of a sudden, this was a threat to our democracy, and how, people should be arrested and prosecuted. But Hillary Clinton can do it. Stacey Abrams can ask questions. And now you have Jasmine Crockett talking about how elections and voter ID affect the Democrats. And magically, of course, it all goes down. It's like when the Democrats, when they're 100% against the right to prove that you have to be a U.S. citizen to vote in our elections. Why would anybody be against that? Why would a single person not want voter ID? I mean, don't you want to know that people are legally allowed to vote in our elections? Isn't that a subject that's something that every single one of us can go on and agree on? I certainly had thought so all this time. But I thought that was part of a privilege of being here in the United States of America and being a U.S. citizen. It is only us, right? It doesn't matter what color your skin is. And it doesn't matter what color what kind of background you have. What matters is that you are a U.S. citizen here in the United States. And part of that privilege of being a U.S. citizen is you get to vote for the people who go and represent you in the government. That is the fundamental of our constitutional republic here in the United States. People who are not citizens are not supposed to vote. Yet the Democrats, they don't ever seem to be wanting to say that to anybody. They always try to close their eyes, and they do all these little euphemisms where they try to lie to you, the American voters, by being very dishonest about the reasons. Their number one, their favorite thing they go to lie to you about with voting is that they try to tell you like it's somehow racist to have voter ID. Or as they can never ever explain for a single moment how it is racist to have voter ID. I mean, can anyone explain that to me? Can a single person have that make sense? Because it makes absolutely zero. See, for the Democrats, they're not only are they openly and blatantly racist, but they're also, the racism comes to low expectations, just like they do with this. The first thing they do is they try to separate all of us into the haves and have-nots. This is standard traditional Marxism. But what's not traditional and traditional Marxism is here in the United States is that they can't do it with with wealth, because there's so much money here in the United States. And so then instead of what they did is they tried to separate people by race. The Democrats tried to make everybody who was white would be evil. Yeah, everybody who was not white was good. Of course, Americans don't vote that way either. Donald Trump, he gained ground in every single demographic except for black women. You ask yourself why. And then the next part they try to lie about is now they're trying to, in their own minds, they group that everybody that is not white is in their corner. And so then what they try to do is when they try to argue about those redistricting and all the things that go in our votes, like her talking about low expectations of somebody, I mean, that they then try to say that, oh, because you're a person of color, you can't get a voter ID. It's just too hard. So that's the Democrats' racism of low expectations. And that should piss every single American off. Because it doesn't matter what color your skin is, you can go and get ID. And you can get a job. You have to do this for all aspects of your life. Yet the Democrats, they seem to just absolutely insist on this insanity. And then they wonder why they're becoming less and less popular with the American people. But of course, the other part of that they don't want to talk about, which I suspect is really coming from, is that if they have weak election laws, then maybe people who shouldn't be able to vote on elections, maybe they could. I'm just saying, is it possible? Right? I mean, why would they oppose voter ID? And why the Democrats, every time they can, they stop any kind of checks on voter rolls, on the mail-in ballots, on who is actually voting. I mean, we should at least be able to agree on that. Right? Only American citizens vote in our elections, and we should have enough election laws to make sure that is happening. Meaning paper ballots and ID to prove you're a U.S. citizen. If you can't do those two things, then you can't vote. But of course, the Democrats are against it, and obvious reasons why. And now we have Hakeem Jeffries, as he's also drumming down on the exact same things that have all done the Democrats do, is now he's blaming you, the American people, for not voting the way that he thinks. Because in the Democrats' mind, that they have all convinced that the Republicans are very bad. And so then you, for the American people, you are too dumb to realize that. I mean, that's Hakeem Jeffries' words.
Moment does require an extraordinary response, because this is an extraordinary act that Republicans have been ordered to undertake to try to gerrymander the Texas congressional map as part of an effort to rig the midterm elections. Wolf, that's what this is all about.
Whoa, stop. He just said what can't be said. All right, I mean, that was Hakeem Jeffries, the leader of the Democrat Party. He just said that the Republicans are rigging elections. Okay, those are Hakeem Jeffries' words. I thought we weren't allowed to talk about rigged elections. I thought rigging elections never ever happened. I thought talking about rigged elections was a threat to our democracy. I mean, is Hakeem Jeffries, is he a literal threat to our democracy? I mean, how dare he, according to the Democrats, and all the things that they've told us for all these years, talk about rigged elections. We're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to say those words. And that's what we're told for all this time. And even when Donald Trump, when he wanted to question elections, none of that was allowed. But now all of a sudden, CNN is more than happy to let Hakeem Jeffries go up there and accuse the Republicans. Learn nothing, please, Democrats.
Because Donald Trump, House Republicans, and the Texas Republican Party, they're all running scared because they have failed the American people.
The amount of gaslighting and projecting there is truly stunning. That he thinks that Donald Trump and the Republicans, that they have failed the American people. What the reality is that the reason Donald Trump is getting more popular and the reason why the Democrats are becoming more and more desperate is because it is the Democrats who have failed the American people. Every single policy they have is unpopular. I mean, what do the Democrats stand for? Right? They stand for printing trillions of dollars. And that's exactly what they did when they had power in the federal government under Joe Biden. It was the Democrats who caused all the inflation that has caused the problems now. It was the Democrats who refused to enforce the border. It was the Democrats who not only allowed tens of millions of illegal aliens to come into our country, but then after they allowed them to come into our country, they then facilitated that, moving them all over our country, paying for hotel rooms, paying for their food, paying for Medicare, paying for Social Security with your tax dollars. For these illegal alien criminals that have never should have been in our country here in the first place. Yet now the Hakeem Jeffries is pretending that the Republicans are so bad. There's the Republicans who the American people are supposed to hate. But the reality is this is absolute gaslighting. That's exactly what it is. He is flat out making this up. And the Democrats, they've gotten so used to lying for such a long time with the help of the corporate media like CNN, they think that they can just message to the American people. They just say over and over again, America hates Trump, America hates Trump, America hates Trump. And they can repeat the lie over and over and over again until the lie becomes the truth. Well, they've lost so much influence that never works anymore. And that's why the Democrats are sub 20% approval. Probably much lower. And that is why CNN has no influence left, or as MSNBC or LA Times or New York Times or any of the others that are not journalists, but propagandists for the DNC. Because they will do exactly what you saw in that clip. They will ask Hakeem Jeffries an easy lowball question, just lop it over to him, and then let him lie, right? Swing it out, and then absolutely no pushback from them. Because they're all on the same team. And that is why us, the independent creators, why we have grown so quickly. Is you, the American people. You just want the truth. Right? You just want to make up your own minds, because many of you are just like you. You're an independent thinker, and you want to have a conversation. Right? You want to go in, you want to get the facts, you want to get the information, and then you want to come up to your own mind. But that is the exact opposite of what the corporate media and the Democrats want for you. What they think that their job is that it's not their job to report the news. It's not their job to tell you the truth. It's their job to tell you what to think. They truly and honestly deep down believe that they are so right, that they are so superior, that they are so elite, that they are just smarter than you and they are better than you, and they are duty, right? It's their duty to lie to you. It's justified because the ends in Marxism justify the means. So then if they lie to you, they're not really lying, right? Because if you were smart enough, right, if you were educated enough, then you would come to the conclusion they're telling you to come to. So at the end of the day, it's your fault for not believing their lies. I mean, that's the way the Democrats think. You should just believe them, and because you don't, that's your fault. Then you must be a racist, or you must be a bigot, you must be a homophobe, and they go through all the same slander, but really it's just try to shut you up and try to force you to submit, and it's not working. And they continue to learn nothing, just like Jasmine Crockett did there, and just like Hakeem Jeffries said. This is the current Democrat Party. There's no one in the middle left. I mean, who are they even going to run for president in 2028? They can't pick a single candidate that would be popular with the American people. So please try like Jasmine Crockett. Please try AOC. Please try Pete Buttigieg. Or really, please try Gavin Newsom, as he's pushing so hard, trying to pretend now that he's some kind of moderate to get elected. But now he can't do what somebody like Barack Hussein Obama did in 08 and 012, when Barack Hussein Obama pretended to be a moderate and then was an insane leftist the entire time that he was in office. Newsom would be the exact same thing, but the difference between Obama and Newsom is that Newsom would have to compete with the independent creators now. Fake news, the corporate media, they can no longer cover for him. And with that, we also, speaking about the corporate media and all the stuff they're trying to pull, we have CNN now, who's also helping, or I think it's MSNBC, is also helping the Democrats lie about what's coming out with Russia. You truly do not hate these people enough as they're trying to continue to make everything about Epstein and hiding what happened with Russiagate. And now Pam Bondi is announcing major charges against many other Democrats. We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more when we come back from this greedy profit break. This is the Cash Lauren Show.
Weeks ago, Hallie.
Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2025, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. For more than 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage on all 3 of the major networks, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
Folks, have you wanted to start a podcast but you just don't know where to begin? Podbeam is your all-in-one solution to host your podcast and distribute it all across the internet. With my code on the affiliate link down below, you will gain also 1 month free to try the Podbeam service. This is really your one-stop solution to hosting your podcast. Record it, you put it up to just a single upload. Then that upload will distribute to all of the main platforms all across the internet, including Apple and Spotify and many, many others. It will then also automatically share your podcast across all major social media, making your job easier so you can spend more time recording the podcasts that you love and less time managing them on the back end. Podbeam is your all-in-one solution for your podcast needs. Click on the link below, the Cash Lauren, and get your 1 free month today. Such a long time that they have lost all their influence as a result. And this has also led to the rise of the independent creators, just like here on the CASHLOREN show, where we take our spare bedroom and convert it into a studio. If you're enjoying this content, it will always be free, but you can continue to help support monetarily if you choose to do so. Click on the locals link. It is only $5 a month. This is just a cup of coffee. Not only will you be supporting an independent creator, but you'll be getting lots of free perks in addition to that as well, including exclusive articles and Sunday shows, and thanking you at the end of videos with your name recognition. Take a moment and consider it and help support independent creators as we fight fake news. Go to locals right now, hit the support button for just a cup of coffee a month. It'll be worth every single penny, and you're getting lots of extra benefits too. Well, the Democrats are digging themselves in a deeper hole now, as they have doubled down on lying to you, the American people, with the helps of the corporate media. It's MSNBC, CNN, ABC, NBC, New York Times, LA Times, Washington Post, Political Axios. Every single one of them have been in the bag for the Democrats. They are all Team DNC. And this is now leading into Donald Trump and his first administration. When this was Russiagate, Donald Trump called Russia. And this was when the Democrats under Barack Hussein Obama and Hillary Clinton ordered the Russia hoax, telling that Donald Trump was somehow a foreign asset for Vladimir Putin in Russia. Or that they'd called the normalized, Putin's puppet, which of course was a blatant lie. And not only was it a blatant lie, but it was them that came up with it themselves, that made up the lie, that made up the intelligence, and that also paid for the opposition research that led to these conclusions. And this is all coming now that we have suspected for a very long time, is now coming into light thanks to Tulsi Gabbard, her braveness of releasing all these documents. And now also we have Pam Bondi, who she has now sent all the information over to have a grand jury for the Russian collusion hoax. As I said, the Russiagate grand jury, this is the first necessary step to finding out the real Russian conspiracy. That there never was a Russian collusion conspiracy. That was hatched by the Clinton campaigns. It's amazing of how many of the public still do not know that. And this is from Jonathan Turley. And that is right. And what's going to come out from this is going to completely, I think, really shock the American people when they realize to the absolute depths that not only did the Democrats lie to them, but also to the corporate media lied to them too. I mean, I think probably the biggest shock moment for now what we call like the casual viewers, or the people that are out there and still don't realize how much fake news is lying to them, was when the Donald Trump and the Joe Biden debate. And it was in that moment when Joe Biden, he went in this weird little ramble about, because he couldn't talk about the border. He went, he just kind of poof. And then Donald Trump turned, he said, I don't know what he said. He doesn't know what he said, but here is my plan. And once Donald Trump did that, all of a sudden the casual viewers realized how much the mainstream media had been lying to them this entire time. And I remember watching that moment, and I was thinking, you know, what Joe Biden did on stage, that isn't even that bad. I mean, I could put clips up that are 10 times worse than what Joe Biden did on that debate stage. But that's when the casual viewers finally realized how much corporate media was lying to them. And this is 100 times worse than them lying about Biden's mental decline. Because this, if it comes out the way that it looks like, this is an actual coup against the duly elected president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. See, Hillary Clinton thought she was born to rule, and that she thought that when she stepped aside for Barack Hussein Obama, that next was going to be her turn because everybody should be with her. And they didn't think there was any way they could lose, especially to a Donald Trump. I mean, come on. I mean, that guy is Donald Trump? No way. Not possible. Not Donald Trump. I mean, the Republicans, they wouldn't try to run Donald Trump. You're kidding. It's a Donald Trump. And that's how arrogant they were. And as the election got closer, we all know what happened. As Hillary Clinton was gained a 92% chance, I think it was 92%, but in the high 90s, to win the election that night. They all believed their own BS. She lost, and then none of the Democrats could accept it. So then what they had to do, they had to come up with an excuse for why they lost, other than they were responsible for losing. So their excuse for losing was Russiagate. Clinton paid for it, and according to Tulsi Gabbard, Barack Hussein Obama ordered it. And the big key date here, according to these documents that was released by Gabbard, remember this is back in Obama's White House, is December 8th. December 8th is so important because that's the date when the letter was released by the intelligence agencies that Russia neither had the ability or the interest to interfere in our elections. Wait a minute. We were told for 2+ years, in fact, even to this day, that Russia interfered in our elections. So they had a report all the way back from 2008 to the intelligence agencies for December 8th. How come none of you know this? Because it was buried. That it was supposed to be in the presidential binder. And another key reason why that is so important is because at this point, Donald Trump had already been elected, but he hasn't taken over the White House yet. But because he had already been elected, he had access to the briefings in this binder. So that document was removed. And then they made up the new documents that all led to Russia. And then they leaked these documents to the mainstream media. The mainstream media ran for it with years, right? And then they used these fake reports in the mainstream media to then go back to the FBI and the DOJ to open up that crossfire hurricane and get all these FISA warrants. And then they go after criminal prosecutions of all the people, including Donald Trump, that they knew that they were innocent because they are the ones that made it up in the first place. People need to go to prison for this. If people don't go to prison, then the deep state and the Democrats will just do this all over again. And then this is where Epstein comes in, because I think this is where they came up with the Epstein, is that once the deep state started to realize that the Russia was going to come out, the real Russiagate, meaning that the Democrats made it up. Isn't that interesting that right before that came out, there was another big news story that broke that all the mainstream media wanted to talk about, right? About Epstein over and over and over again. And Epstein, and Trump, and Epstein. And that's all they ever want to talk about. They're trying to control the news cycle just like they used to be able to do, just even a few years ago. But they are the boys that cried wolf. And because they've lied to the American people for so many times, they no longer have the influence that they used to have. It's just most American voters don't even believe them. As the mainstream media, that their viewership has dropped off a cliff. And that the Democrats, their approval rating is sub 20% now. Because they've lied so much. And now this is all coming out, and now they're all being exposed. They're trying to pretend that Russia is so important still. And they can't understand why you, the American people, why you aren't talking about Epstein when the mainstream media told you to ignore Russiagate and be really focused and really angry about Epstein. And then listen to how the mainstream media, they use their reporters to lie to you, the American people.
The headlines were dominated by the Jeffrey Epstein controversy, and then the president was sort of trying to change the topic very obviously, and in many different venues was trying to bring up these unsubstantiated claims about the role he argues former President Obama had in the 2016 election and trying to suppress some information that he says would have been damaging if it had come to light. And so then you have the
right. That is one of, see, they're right, but they come to all the wrong conclusions because they are in the bag for the Democrat Party. See, this is how the mainstream media, this is how they lie to you. Is that they will tell you a half truth, but then they'll marry it to many lies to get you to come to the wrong conclusion that you never would have came to if you would have known the whole truth. Remember I said how December 8th was so important? Because December 8th was the day when they all knew that Russia did not interfere in our elections, and they had no desire to or had the ability to. That was Obama's intelligence agencies. Okay, that was Brennan. That was Clapper. That was all of them. That wasn't Trump's people. That was Obama's people that came to that. And then December 9th, that port was pulled and the fake one was put in and the Steele dossier and all the other stuff. So that's how they marry a truth to the lie. When they say it's unsubstantiated, it's actually the unsubstantiated is the other side. And what fake news and the corporate media will do is they refuse to look, right? They won't look at anything that they don't want you to know. As we show the documents that this was Obama, and then that HRC, Hillary Rodham Clinton, ordered the Russia collusion hoax, according to these documents released by the CIA and the DIA. Hey, this is Obama's White House, not Trump's. They covered it up, they lied about it, and fake news is more than happy to pretend that it's not real because they still don't understand they can't lie to you anymore and get away with it because we will expose them. And just see how just upset they are. I mean, we told you to focus on Epstein, right? The Democrats and their puppets in the mainstream media couldn't shut up about Epstein. Why are you not focused on Epstein when they told you again, which is ironic, without any evidence whatsoever, that Donald Trump is on the Epstein list? And the only people that they convince is the ones that already hate Donald Trump, who just tell them what they want to hear. But what they've lost is the people in the middle. They've lost the normal Americans. To win elections, you have to get the independent voters. I mean, roughly about a third of the voters are Democrat, about a third are Republican, and the largest block is actually about the independents, who will kind of swing one way or the other, depending on the election and depending on whatever they're voting on that day. But for the mainstream media and the corporate media, they can't understand why you're not doing what they told you to do, because in their minds, they're morally right to lie to you, the American people, to get you to come to a conclusion that they want you to come to. And they just can't grasp why you're not believing them. I mean, they've only lied to you 100 times. So why what's one lying to you 101?
Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, come to the White House briefing room, come to the podium and try to share some of this alleged new evidence. Well, now you have the Attorney General saying that they're going to try to take that information, which, remember, they had announced a strike force to look into what they call this new evidence and try to evaluate it to see if there could be any potential criminal indictments that they would follow. And the thing that matters here is that
the way that they're wording that, and then that the corporate media just lets them continue to word things that way. The alleged, supposed, suspect. You know, there's probably nothing here. Yeah, there's nothing really to look at. I mean, why would they even send this to a grand jury? Now, what if this is the flip side? Here, what if this was Obama's White House, or this was Joe Biden's White House, and they were going after Donald Trump? How much different would the fake news storylines run? Of course, we know the answer because of what they did with the impeachment hoaxes, and explicitly with Russia, which led to everything else. That they knew the entire time. They either knew it was fake or they didn't have a single journalistic bone in their body to go and investigate it. Because if they did, then it would have all been exposed.
Basically a grand jury investigation that's being launched, but that will happen in secret. This is behind closed doors, and it's completely unclear whether it will yield anything new. It's unclear that we will ever.
It's normal for grand juries to be behind closed doors and the indictments to be sealed until released. That is every day, all the time.
Learn anything new about it because it could be under seal, but it really does bear repeating. This is looking into something for which there is no evidence to back it up, and it's really, it seems, a political.
There is no evidence to back it up. You will never hate these people enough. Okay, they release the classified documents. This isn't like how mainstream media runs all the time. Well, they'll say sources say, or experts say, or people in close to the investigation. They'll word things like that, but they never actually release any of the documents or any of the proof because they did this, it all immediately falls apart. They're a Russian collusion hoax. They ran for 2 years. And even now, a decade later, are still pushing Russia, Russia, Russia. When Tulsi Gabbard releases the actual documents that show what they did, and now she has the nerve to say that there's no evidence, you will never hate fake news enough.
Motivated move to keep the focus on one of the president's clear political foes and talk about basically anything else.
They're angry and they're upset. They're really, really mad that they try to lie to you about Epstein and you're not listening to the lie about Epstein. And they're trying to lie to you about how in Russiagate, and they're mad and angry that you're not believing them in Russiagate. The information is already out. The documents have already been released. Unless these documents are fake, but even then they're actually being released to you, the public. You know what like Obama did or what Joe Biden did? Of course, they never released any of the documents. It would stay secret in the deep state, in the intelligence agencies, and then they were released to the mainstream media, and the mainstream media would run with it and not show you a single thing. Trump's administration is actually showing the documents. HRC, Hillary Rodham Clinton, ordered it. Barack Hussein Obama, according to Tulsi Gabbard, ordered it. And now there's a grand jury. I really hope that these people go to prison. If, we always assume innocence till proven guilty. But the Democrats, if they are guilty, just like the ones in Texas, and just like the ones who tried to usurp the will of you, the American voters, because they couldn't stand that they lost power. If they ended up being convicted, I hope they spend the rest of their lives in prison. And I very much suspect that someone's going to flip. Comey is probably the most likely, and Brennan's probably the easiest one to convict. And then also we have a lot of lying about statute of limitations. And it turns out that none of the statute of limitations have expired, especially on seditious conspiracy. So now we're going to find out who Pam Bondi is and who Cash Patel is. Are they actually going to stand up and arrest these Democrats? And with that, we are up against the clock. We'll have to come back tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern. And on this too, we're going to start doing an after show that's going to be exclusive to Rumble. However, I'm still having some technology issues with Rumble, and I'm still trying to figure out how to get all that work. Is we had a problem Friday, and then today, for some reason, it didn't stream to Rumble. I'm not sure why. I'll have to look into that later. But once I get those technical issues fixed, we will be doing an after show every day, and it will be to Rumble only. So I appreciate everyone, and we will talk to you again tomorrow. This is the Cash Loren Show.